power is a fragile thing. Even for a pharaoh. Especially for a young pharaoh ruling alone for the first time, stepping out from the shadow of a powerful regent. This was the world of Thutmose III, around 1472 BC. Egypt seemed supreme, the memory of the hated Hyksos rulers expelled generations ago still fresh enough to fuel ambition. But beyond the borders, in the sun-baked lands of Canaan, resentment simmered. Whispers turned to open defiance. Kadesh, a city-state nestled strategically in the Orontes Valley. Its king, Darusha, saw an opportunity. He saw a young pharaoh, perhaps untested, perhaps vulnerable. He began to forge an alliance, a dangerous coalition of Canaanite and Syrian princes, lords who chafed under Egypt's distant, demanding rule. From the coastal cities to the inland hills, nearly 330 local rulers pledged their swords and chariots to Kadesh. Their target? Megiddo. Megiddo. A name that would echo through eternity. A fortress city perched on a ridge overlooking the vital Jezreel Valley, the crossroads of ancient trade routes. Whoever controlled Megiddo controlled the flow of wealth and armies between Egypt and Mesopotamia. The rebel coalition gathered there, confident behind its strong walls, ready to challenge the might of the Nile. Word reached Thebes. Rebellion. Not just skirmishes, but a coordinated uprising threatening Egypt's northern territories, its buffer zone, its prestige. Thutmose III, barely into his 20s as sole ruler, faced his first great test. Failure was not an option. The legacy of his ancestors, the stability of the two lands, demanded action. For 3 years, the storm gathered. Then, in 1469 BC, Thutmose III acted. He mustered his army, perhaps 20,000 strong, the elite soldiers of Egypt, hardened veterans and eager recruits, accompanied by the fearsome chariot corps, the cutting edge of Bronze Age warfare. They marched from the border fortress of Cheru, a glittering serpent of bronze and linen snaking across the Sinai desert. 9 days later, they reached Gaza, the last loyal city. Ahead lay hostile territory. Thutmose held a council of war. Scouts reported the enemy encamped in the valley before Megiddo. 3 routes led there. 2 were open, flanking the Carmel Ridge longer, safer, predictable. The third was madness. The Aruna Pass. A narrow, treacherous defile cutting directly through the mountains. So narrow, the reports claimed, men and horses would have to pass single file. An ambush waiting to happen. His generals urged caution. Take the easier routes, they pleaded. Why risk the entire army in such a dangerous bottleneck? Here, we glimpse the mind of Thutmose. Was it arrogance? Supreme confidence? Or calculated genius? He listened. And then he made his decision. My Majesty declares, the chronicles tell us, as I live, as Ra loves me, as my father Amun favors me. I shall proceed upon this Aruna road. He swore he would lead the way himself. If his army was to risk death, their pharaoh would face it first. Imagine the tension. The grumbling doubt among the troops, silenced by the pharaoh's divine resolve. The slow, agonizing crawl through the pass. Dust, heat, the clang of equipment echoing off the rock walls. Every shadow could hold an enemy spearman. Every boulder could conceal an archer. Hours stretched into an eternity. Horses stumbled. Chariots had to be dismantled and carried. One wrong move, one well-sprung trap, and the history of Egypt could have ended right there, choked in the dust of Aruna. But the king of Kadesh had made a fatal assumption. He expected caution. He expected the Egyptians to take the predictable paths. His forces were positioned to meet attacks from the north and south, leaving the Aruna exit lightly guarded, perhaps only by pickets. Then, emerging from the narrow pass, blinking in the valley sunlight, came the vanguard of the Egyptian army. Thutmose himself, his royal chariot gleaming. The surprise was total. Disbelief turned to panic in the rebel camp. They scrambled to redeploy, caught completely off balance. Thutmose didn't hesitate. As his forces poured into the valley, he ordered them into a bold formation, a concave line, horns projecting forward, designed to envelop the enemy. The battle commenced near midday. The air filled with the thunder of hooves, the terrifying whine of chariot wheels, the shouts of commanders, the screams of the wounded. Egypt's northern wing, commanded by the Pharaoh himself, surged forward. It slammed into the rebel southern flank, buckling their line. Simultaneously, the Egyptian southern wing swung around, threatening to cut off the enemy's retreat towards the fortress of Megiddo. The rebel center, facing the main weight of the Egyptian infantry and chariots, began to crumble. Chaos erupted among the coalition forces. Their lines broke. Princes abandoned their gilded chariots, scrambling for safety. The king of Kadesh himself barely escaped, fleeing the battlefield, leaving his army to its fate. It was a rout, a stunning display of tactical brilliance and Egyptian military discipline. Victory seemed absolute. But then, something unexpected happened. Something disastrously human. As the rebels streamed back towards the safety of Megiddo's walls, the Egyptian soldiers, tasting victory and seeing the spoils of war laid bare, broke ranks. The abandoned enemy camp glittered with gold and silver, rich fabrics, finely crafted weapons, and hundreds of abandoned chariots. Instead of pursuing the fleeing enemy, pressing the advantage, storming the gates of Megiddo before they could be properly shut and defended, the Egyptian army succumbed to the lure of plunder. They swept through the camp, gathering loot, celebrating their victory prematurely. Precious moments were lost. Crucial momentum squandered. From the ramparts of Megiddo, the defenders watched in disbelief, then relief. They hauled their fleeing king and other lucky survivors up the walls with ropes made of tied clothing. The massive gates slammed shut. The opportunity was gone. Thutmose III, surveying the scene, must have felt a surge of fury. His brilliant tactical victory was now incomplete. Megiddo, the strategic prize, remained defiant. What should have been a swift conclusion turned into a grueling ordeal. The siege of Megiddo began. The Egyptians, masters of logistics, settled in for the long haul. They built a wall around the city, cutting off all supplies. Day bled into week, week into month. Inside the fortress, hope dwindled. Food ran out. Water became scarce. The initial defiance curdled into despair. 7 long months. Imagine the conditions. The relentless sun beating down. The stench of confinement. The slow starvation. Finally, the city could endure no more. Megiddo surrendered. The spoils were immense, meticulously recorded by Thutmose's scribes. 924 chariots, including those of the king of Kadesh, over 2,000 horses, thousands of cattle, armor, weapons, and vast quantities of gold and silver. The 330 rebellious princes and lords who had been trapped inside were brought before the Pharaoh. Their lives were spared, but their authority was broken. They swore new oaths of allegiance, their sons taken back to Egypt as hostages, guarantees of future loyalty, educated in the Egyptian way. Megiddo was secured. Thutmose had crushed the rebellion, asserted Egyptian dominance, and demonstrated his military genius. But the campaign revealed a hard truth. Victory on the battlefield wasn't enough. The looting incident proved discipline was paramount. And the very need for the campaign showed that control over Canaan was fragile. This single, decisive battle was not the end of the story. Thutmose III would spend much of his long-reign campaigning. 15 more times he would march his armies into Syria and Palestine, solidifying his empire, pushing Egypt's borders further than ever before, earning his reputation as the Napoleon of Egypt. The Battle of Megiddo, however, remained the cornerstone of his legend. A battle won by audacity, a near-perfect victory marred by human greed, leading to a long, hard siege. It was a stark lesson in the realities of ancient warfare, a testament to a young pharaoh's nerve, and a shadow stretching across the very place that, millennia later, would be known by another name derived from this ancient fortress. Armageddon. The echoes of Thutmose's gamble and the ghosts of Megiddo linger still.